performing the initial sync up, what we need to do? So we need to use a pg based backup utility to perform the initial sync up. So in this case 192.168.29.125 is my master IP and 192.168.29.132 is my slave. Okay, and I did a initial sync up through pg based backup. Now let me try to start the cluster. So pgctl-d. So before doing that, as I said, whenever you use a -r option, it is going to set the necessary parameters that are required to support the replication. Now let me go to the data directory location and check what is happened. cd/u02 postgres data directory vi postgresql.auto.conf. See, there are a couple of parameters that are set by the -r option. So primary connection info, the username is postgres. Okay, username is what? Username is postgres, and the port number and password, everything is there, through which the slave will make a connection to the primary to get the val files. Now let me try to start the cluster. So pgctl-d/u02 postgres data directory start. Okay, the cluster has been started. So how can we check which one is a primary and which one is a standby? So the best thing is, and you do like in the data directory, whenever you see a standby.signal file, this is an empty file. Okay, this is an what? Empty file which doesn't have anything. But whenever you see a standby.signal file in the data directory of the Postgres, okay, whenever you see a standby.signal file in the data directory of your Postgres, then that is called as a slave. And one more thing that we can check is, there is a function through which you can find out whether the instance or cluster is in recovery mode or not. How can we check, right? So we need to call this function select pg underscore is underscore in underscore recovery. Select pg underscore is underscore in underscore recovery. If it is true, which means that is a standby server, and if it is a false, which means it is a primary server. So now let me check in this case. Okay, let me connect to the Postgres cluster and select pg underscore is underscore in underscore recovery. See, it is true, which means it is a standby server. Let me check the same thing in the primary as well. So select pg underscore is underscore in underscore recovery. It is false, so it is a master. This is how you can find out whether the given server is a slave or master. And one more thing is, how can we check the status of the replication? So how can we check the status of the replication is, you can check the status of the replication using pg underscore stat underscore replication data dictionary. Pg underscore stat underscore replication. This is a data dictionary which contains the information about your streaming replication. Okay, now let me try to find a select star from pg underscore stat underscore replication. So let me make it some visible way. Select star from pg underscore stat underscore replication. See, so 192.168.29.132 is the slave, and it is in asynchronous mode. And do you see any lag? No, you won't see any lag. So pg underscore stat underscore replication is a data dictionary table which contains the information about the the status of the replication. So by default, as I said, whenever you configure a replication, by default it is a asynchronous mode. So how can we make it asynchronous? That we will be seeing it in a while. Any doubts so far?
No worries.
Next thing what I'm trying to do, right, I'm trying to create some artificial lag between master and slave, and we'll check how can we recover. Again, what I'm trying to do, so my master is in 192.168.29.125. My slave is in 192.168.29.132, Now I'm going to break the network between master and slave, and I'm going to do some DMLs on the master, and I will let the val files to get override, and I'll be showing you how can we recover when there is no val file provided in Postgres. So someone, if someone is from the Oracle background, in Postgres there is no concept of incremental recovery of a standby system. So if it is Oracle, and if there is a issue between master and slave for, and after some time, if you want to recover, though the archive log is not available, you can take a incremental backup using SCN number and you can recover the standby database, right? But that concept is not there in, like Postgres. So whatever the val file that the slave is looking for, if that val file is somehow not available anywhere, then we have to end up with the recreating the entire standby cluster. Okay, entire standby cluster. So now let me check one by one. Now what I'm trying to do, right? I'm trying to stop my slave. Okay. Okay. Now what I'll do on the master side, yeah, data directory cd pg underscore var. So these are all the val files, right? Now what I'll try to do, right? I will try to generate a, I will try to generate some data, and I will let the val files to be overwritten, so that once I restart the slave, so whatever the val file that slave is looking for, that might not be available in the pg underscore val location. So I'm going to create some artificial lag, and I'm going to create a scenario where whatever the val file that the slave is looking for, that must be not there in the pg underscore val location. So 1 minute /dn demo /dt demo dot star. Do we have any table? No. So create table demo dot test and space varchar of 100, insert into demo dot test values. This is for testing. So now what I am trying to do, I have created one table and I have inserted some data. Let me start this cluster first. I will show you how it is going to end. So now PSQL /c DMS select star from demo dot test. See, the table got reflected automatically onto the slave side. Now let me stop the slave. I have stopped the slave. Now what I'll do, insert into demo dot test select star from demo dot test. I'm trying to insert the same data from the same table. Just I'm loading some data. So what I'm trying to do, right? I'm trying to let the val file go away from the pg underscore val location. That is the reason why I'm loading lots and lots of data. Let it load. So meanwhile, let me open one more session. Sorry. So now I'm loading the data. If you see here, as I said, pg val doesn't hold the all the val files. Okay, so somehow after some point what is happening, the val files are getting overwritten in the pg underscore val location. Okay, now let's wait for some more time. Let the val files get generated. Yeah, so see this f9 f8 10 11 12 all got, what happened, all got overwritten. So now what I'll try to do, right, I'll try to start the cluster on the standby side. So now PSQL. Okay, if you see cell slash cdms, sorry, yeah, select count of star from demo.test y1. So I have inserted lots and lots and lots of data here, but still it is showing count as 1. Why? Because so whenever you get such issues, what you need to do, you need to check, like why we are not able to, why the standby is not able to in sync with the master. Okay, so how can we check that, right? So as a dba, what is our primary source of information? The log file is the primary source of information. Okay, now let me open the log file. So tail-f. So this is the log file. So what it is looking for? It is looking for a val segment with the number B8. Okay. So this is the val segment. Let me go and check on the primary side whether this val file is there in the pg underscore val location or not. ls-lt, or on the primary side, do we have this val file? No. But where we have this val file, as we have enabled the archive log mode, this val file might be there in this location. So what happened in this case? In this case, whatever the val file that the slave is looking for, that val file is not available in the pg underscore val location, whereas the val file we have, as we have enabled the archive log mode, that val file is there in the archive location. So somehow in this case, somehow the val file is available. So as I said, if the val file is available somewhere, then there is a way. Okay, then there is a way to, uh, what we can restore or recover the database, but standby database. But if there is no val file in the pg underscore val location or either in the archive location, then there is no other way. Just a minute, I'll be back, give me a minute. Okay, so as we said, so whatever the val file that the slave is looking for, that val file is not there on the primary side, whereas the same val file that we have in the archive location. So with this, what we are trying to do, we are trying to avoid a scenario of rebuilding the entire cluster, because somehow somewhere that val file is available, so no need of rebuilding the entire cluster. So before, so now there must be a way to let the standby to detect the val file from the archive location, right? So that we are going to see. Before going to see that, so I'm going to give you couple of commands to check the lag between master and slave. So I'll be sharing you these documents today. Okay, so now let me try to check the lag. 1 minute. Where is this? Yeah, so now let me try to find out the lag between these two. So how can we find out the lag between these two, right? So you can use this query. So you can use this query to find out the lag between master and slave, and this query needs to be executed on the slave side. This query needs to be what? Executed on the slave side. So let me log into the slave. and run this command. 1 minute. Yeah. So what is the lag? So so PG is in underscore recovery is true. The PG last val received, last one it got received is what? BA0000, and it is the applied lag is 5018. Okay, the applied lag is 5018 and the received lag is BA0000. So now, so how can we find out the lag, right? So if you want to find out the lag, so you need to find out the differences between these two. Whatever the outputs that we got, we can do a difference. Otherwise, there is a one more query. 1 minute. So there should be some query to find out the lag between masters and slave. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, this is the one. So on the slave side, you can run this query to find out the lag between master and slave. How much of lag is there? There is a lag of 697 seconds. Okay, there is a lag now, lag of 697 seconds. Okay, so likewise, we will be having a query to check the lag from the master as well. Suppose let's say you have a, like access to the master, then how can we find out? Okay, how can we find out? 1 minute, what happened to this? What happened? I think space got occupied. Okay. Okay, as there are bulk insert, the space got occupied. Okay, so we can find out the lag between master and slave using these queries. I will be sharing you these queries in a while. So before that, so what happened, right? Now what is the val file that the slave is looking for? The val file that the slave is looking for is, so this is the val file that the slave is looking for. Now what I'll do, I'll try to copy this val file from master to the slave side. I'll try to copy this val file from master to the slave. How can I do that? U0 to PG archive. This is the location where I have this val file. I'll use scp command. So scp file name and 192.168.29.132. Right? This is the IP address of my slave at the rate colon slash u02 slash pg archive. Do we have this location exist? Let me check. cd slash u02 ls. Let me create some directory. mkdir archives. Sudo mkdir archives. So now chown hyphen capital R postgres colon postgres slash u02 archives. Just I'm trying to change the ownership as well. So now what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to copy this val file from master to the slave side, and I'm going to copy this val file somewhere on the slave side. So let it get copied. What happened? u02 archive permission denied. 1 minute. Archive or archives? It is archives. Okay. The file is getting copied. So now what I have, whatever the file that slave is looking for, that file is available on the master, sorry, on the slave. So now I should have some way to let the slave know that whatever the val file that you are looking for is available in so and so location. To do that, so we have a command called, okay, we have a command called restore underscore command. Restore underscore command talks about, so whatever the val file that the slave is looking for that is not available on the pg underscore val location of the master, then where it has to check. So restore underscore command talks about where slave has to look for a particular val file if the val file that is requested is not available on the master. So alter system set restore underscore command, alter system set restore underscore command equal to cp. In which location we have this file? We have this file in slash u02, same archive command like that, u02 archive slash percentile f, and we are telling the system to copy the files from archive location to pg underscore val location. The moment it got copied to the pg underscore val location, it will try to apply it. Okay, so select pg underscore reload underscore conf. Whenever you change any parameter, you need to go for a reloading. So now try to let me go to the log file and check now which log file it is looking for. Okay, so ls-ltr, so tail-f. Array, what is this? See, now it is looking for some different file. Previously it was which file? Previously it was like b8. Now it is looking for b9. Let me copy the b9 now. Now I copied b9. Now it will wait for something else. Now it is waiting for ba. So now what I will do, right? I'll do scp star so that everything will be copied from master to the slave side. So the moment it is getting copied, so from that, as I have mentioned restore underscore command, it will try to copy the file from this archive location to the pg underscore val location. From that it will get applied. Once it got applied, then what happens? Once it got applied, the lag will get decreases. This is how the recovery will happen when the requested val file is already available. So if the requested val file is not available, then what it has to do? If the requested val file is not available, then it has to copy, then it has to we have to rebuild the entire slave. If the requested val file is not available, then we have to rebuild the entire slave. Okay, that's how the recovery works in Postgres. So the whole, but as I said, there is no concept of performing a incremental recovery of standby database like we have in Oracle. The only thing that we can do, right, so we can perform either if we have a val file, then we can configure a restore underscore command, or if we don't have the val file that is available, then we need to end up rebuilding the entire Postgres cluster. Okay, we need to rebuild entire Postgres cluster. So now let the val files get copied. Meanwhile, what I'll do, right, I could see there are a lot of val files that got generated. Just I'm trying to clean up some space on the master side. Feb27 rm-rf. Just the space got occupied, so just I'm trying to remove it. Okay, if you see, the space got occupied, so just I'm trying to remove it. We'll see. So till which file it got copied? So now BA file got copied. Once the BA file got copied, it will try to apply. See, BA file is getting restored. If you see restore log file from archive, so the restore underscore command talks about what? This is a very important interview question. The restore underscore command talks about where the slave has to look for the val file if the whatever the val file that the slave is looking for is not there on the master side. So okay, so now the val files are getting restored from which location? Archive location. So I'll be sharing you all these files with you. We have generated a huge in number, right? So it will take more time to copy all these val files. So one of the interview question would be like what you will do, whatever the value file that you are looking for is not there in the slave master side, or it is not available anywhere. Then the answer would be like, so we don't have any other option rather than rebuilding the entire slave. And one more thing, so while using the PG base backup, why you have to use hyphen R? So when you use a hyphen R option, PG base backup is going to set up a necessary commands that supports the replication. And one more question would be, like how can you find out the replication status from the primary side? You can query a table called pg underscore stat underscore replication. So what are the process that are involved in the replication? There is a val sender, val receiver, and startup process. And one more thing that they might ask you is, like what is the difference between synchronous replication and asynchronous replication? So synchronous replication, it is going to wait for the acknowledgement from the slave, whereas in the asynchronous replication it is not going to wait for the acknowledgement from the slave, and the default one is a asynchronous replication. Okay. So, and there is a concept of, meanwhile let them get copied. Meanwhile, there is a concept of hot standby and warm standby. Okay, what is that? There is a concept of hot standby and warm standby. 1 minute. What happened to this? Yeah. So there is a concept of hot standby and warm standby. What is hot standby and what is warm standby? So hot standby means the standby database will be opened in a read-only mode. What is that? Hot standby means the standby database can be opened in a read-only mode, where you can redirect your read-only traffic to the hot standby database, and it can only select queries. Warm standby means your database is in a kind of a mount state where no one will be able to connect to this. No one will be able to connect to this warm standby. So by default it is in hot standby, where your database will be open in the read-only mode and you can find a select queries. Okay, in the warm standby you cannot perform anything. Okay, you cannot perform anything. This is also one of the important interview questions. So now I think, so it is almost done, huh? Still it is doing from archive only, still it is getting copied. Oh my goodness. Meanwhile, let me As I have generated a lot of log files now, it is taking more time to copy from master to the slave. Jeez. I mean, there are a lot of log files are there. Still, it is getting copied. So once this recovery is done, right? So what happens once this recovery is done? You don't see this statement restore log file from archive. So once that is done, so whenever the as long as you see there is a statement like restore log file from archive, which means it is trying to use a restore command to restore or recover your val file. So once this restoration is done from the archive location, it will show you from the real time apply. I'll Yeah, it is done, copy is done. Now it is trying to restore is happening. Let it. So now let it go. Let it go. Now what I'll do is just I'll log into the Postgres cluster and I'll try to check the lag now. Previously it was like there is a 679 seconds of lag was there. Now let me try to find out. It should get decreases. 1 minute. Why it is giving a wrong result, right? Let me. It should get decreases ideally. 1 minute. There might be some issues with the query or what. Oh, Mhm. Now let me try to create some table on the source side. PSQL slash cdemo. Sorry, slash cdms. Okay, there is no space. And now what I'll do, right? Just I'll remove the archives from here on the master side, and just I'm removing the archive because they are of no need. So now PSQL slash cdms. Now shall create table demo dot app and space numeric. So I have created a table. Let me check whether this table got created or not. Slash dt demo dot star. Okay, it is not yet created. So why it is not yet created? Let me check. Slash q ls hyphen ltr tail hyphen f. Such what happened? She has already been removed. Again. Okay, okay. What happened, right? So it is looking for a val file which is 00.cc, but that val file is removed because of space constraint. Okay, because just now I have removed the val files from the master, right? So because of the space constraints, what happened, that val file got removed. That is the reason why I have intentionally done that. So now what I need to do, as this val file is not there, okay, as this val file is not there on the, like, master side also. So what is the only option that we have? We don't have any other option rather than rebuilding the entire cluster. Now let me try to show you. So now let me try to show you how can we rebuild. So rebuilding is pretty straightforward. Just you have to stop the cluster first. Let me stop the cluster. pg underscore ctl hyphen d slash u02 postgres data directory. Stop. And once that is done, just go to the data directory u02 postgres data directory rm hyphen rf start. Just remove that and go to slash u02 archive. Remove archives as well, and go to cd slash u02 tables u02 ls cd space postgres ls rm hyphen rf table spaces. Okay, I removed everything. Now I will call pg base backup name again, pg underscore base backup. So we should have some command, right? So pg underscore base backup hyphen u hyphen h. Yeah, so what is the ip? 125 here. Any doubts so far? So this you will get more clarity when you start practicing it. Okay, so what you need to do, right? You need to provision a one more Linux machine through VMware, and you have to try setting up the streaming replication between the two servers. Then only you will get more clarity. Okay. So anyway, I'll be sharing you all these documents and recordings. So if you have any doubts, just call me. Yeah, it is done. So now straight away what we can do, we can start the cluster. pg underscore ctl hyphen d slash u02 postgres data directory start. So psql. So this is how you can do. So this is how you can set up a streaming replication between your master and slave. In the next class we are going to see how can we set up a synchronous streaming replication, and we are also going to see how can we perform a failover operation between master and slave. So any doubts so far? If not, just we'll wind up for today and we'll connect tomorrow again. Thank you.